Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Sugar. I am founder number 2, actually, of POPSUGAR. My wife happens to be founder number 1, and we sort of started this together. For those of you that don't know much about our company, I thought I'd just give you a quick sort of overview of who we are. I like what some people said before about diversification of revenue. That's something that we take at the very core of our business. We really have 3 businesses at our company. POPSUGAR, a media company. We reach over 100 million globals monthly. We are in the US, UK, France, Germany, Australia. We just launched the Middle East. We're in Japan, and we're launching China. We also have a brand which is called ShopStyle. ShopStyle is a lower funnel advertising model, or some people call it commerce. The gentleman from Gawker was talking about things like that. We drove last year over $1 billion in retail sales to our partners like Neiman Marcus, Macy's, J.Crew, Everlane, et cetera. And then the third business that we have, which is the smallest but still mighty, is the POPSUGAR must-have subscription service. Really commerce right to the front door of our readers. We have a subscription box. We have 35,000 monthly subscribers that pay us $40 a month to receive a box from what our editors curate. We just released a POPSUGAR mini box, which is a monthly $20 a month box. We create boxes seasonally for companies like Neiman Marcus and Target and some other great brands. So together, we're now 500 employees. We've been profitable for the past 5 years. Later this year, we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary, so we're excited by that. I was asked today, let's see if this works. I was asked to talk about Facebook and how we've done really well in creating video views there. But before we get there, I wanted to talk about how we approach creating content, because we are fully owned and operated. We don't represent other people's sites. We don't pay other people's sites for their ComScore numbers so that we can represent that we're much bigger when you're out there trying to play that scale game that other people spoke about. So we, day in and day out, need to have people coming to our sites and our social pages all over every platform and really engage with our content so that we can do all the various different things that we want to do, from selling advertising to doing commerce to selling must-have subscription boxes. So when we think about our audience, we think about the 4 different generations that are here in the US and globally. Up until about 6 months ago, the largest audience was baby boomers. These were my parents. About 78, 80 million US people are baby boomers. Next down is probably most people in this room, Gen X, the smallest but mighty of all generations in the US, which is really great. Then we always talk about millennials, which was supposed to be bigger than the baby boomers, but actually never quite got there. And then there's Gen Z, which is coming, okay? That is now larger than any population, any generation in the US. They now represent 26% of the US population. So we think about what millennials are like and now what Gen Z is like, and some interesting things. And I have 3 Gen Z people in my home. These things are a lot different than what I'm used to. A couple of differences, okay? They are the most diverse individuals in the US. Like, my 4th grader has many classmates whose parents are same sex, completely understood. The melting pot of like 1/16 Italian, 1/16 Asian, so on and so forth, is just well accepted. So we have to understand that everybody is very, very unique, more unique than my grandparents that came over from the old country or something like that. So we have to take that into account. In addition, all these kids were born with an IP address in their brain, and we have to understand that, right? So like the millennials, their attention span, according to Deep Focus, is 12 seconds. Wow, the altitude really gets to you. The attention span of this new one is 8 seconds. The difference between 12 seconds to 8 seconds is amazing. So we need to keep this all in mind when we think about these generations. So we've come up with a strategy that we use across all platforms when we're creating content, and we call it IPA. Who's thinking about beer right now? Right? Well, let's talk about IPA beer. Do you know the genesis of IPA beer? In the 1600s and the 1700s, when the people were coming over from Europe to North America, they would load their barrels up with ale. You know what would happen to that ale? It would spoil, because a couple weeks into the trip, it would become bad. So what would happen is they would drink that stuff a lot faster, they would get drunk and lost. So they needed to figure out how can they get that ale to North America so they could party with the Indians or what have you. So being the awesome human beings that we are, the innovative human beings that we are, we added more alcohol to the ale, and that made it last the harsh trip over to North America. We created more efficient beer, more efficient alcohol, and I really think about that with Gen Z and Gen Y. They want more efficiency, and if you think about it, over the past 5 or 10 years, IPA beer has really seen a resurgence. It's not for the hoppier flavor. It's because it gets you to the state of where you want to get to much faster. It is more efficient for those people with those smaller attention spans. So we take IPA, and we use that jokingly, but you're going to remember it. And when you're CEO, when you go from a founder of like 10 people and then you're CEO of a 500-person company, you got to say things like 1,700 times before people really use it. I mean, right? And you got to come up with something really simple and easy, and everybody remembers IPA at our company, and anytime I meet with brands and agencies, they talk about it. So let's talk about IPA. I for immediacy, P for personalization, and A for authenticity. Now I'm going to show you how that manifests itself in what we do in video. But I wanted to talk about what we do in video now. We do over 120 million video views across Facebook and YouTube already. We do not have a Snapchat Discover channel, but this month we'll come close to 10 million views or users in our Snapchat organic user. We believe that growing an organic user base on Snapchat is the key to the success there. I don't know how much longer Discover will be a thing or if it will be, but we know that in order to really be authentic with your users, you need to create content in those platforms for them. Facebook has just been a massive growth engine for us for video. We do a ton of stuff for them. YouTube has always been a staple for us, and we have over 5 million subscribers watching our videos there. Back in 2009, we bought a business that was concentrating on video and fashion in LA, and that became POPSUGAR Studios. And we've been creating thousands of videos on a monthly basis, and we've done over 5 billion views in totality. So we take a lot of that data, and we come up with things that we want to create. So, a couple of things. From an immediacy perspective, we have this awesome tool called Trend Rank. Okay? On an hourly basis, we are watching every single publisher's posts on Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter. And we're watching how many shares you get. We're watching the velocity of those shares. We're watching the acceleration of those shares. We're watching all the influencers that people roll up in their various different ComScore numbers, and we're watching what they're talking about and what's being shared, retweeted, repinned. And that gives us an inkling of the amber of something that's going to catch on fire that we're going to create. This all started from my wife, Lisa, when she was working at Goodby Silverstein & Partners, and she would read the internet, and she would write down all the stories that she wanted to write about, and then she would go and write about them. Now we have an automatic process that's creating topics that a writer should be writing about on an hourly basis. So I can tell you, all your publishers, if you're part of our Trend Rank system, I can tell you what's working and what's not. And we use that to then say, oh, that's something that we want to take a perspective on, and we're going to do something like that. So, for example, sliced chocolate is a thing. I didn't know that. It has, over the past month, we've seen close to 4 million views on this sliced chocolate Japan trend that is absolutely amazing. Brandy Malloy is homegrown, expert in food, and she does amazing things like that. On the personalization front, we talked about diversity of your audience and understanding them. One of the things we realized is a lot of folks are first-generation Americans, and there's a lot of funny things that go on with that. One of our most watched videos on Facebook is something by Aziz around this, and I wanted to play that for some humor, and so I can catch my breath.
I'm the first generation of my family that was born in America. Anybody else first generation people? Yeah.
9 reasons all first-gen kids see themselves in Aziz Ansari. You feel the pressure of immigrant parents' career expectations. Somehow stand-up comedian, graphic designer, and filmmaker just don't have the same ring as doctor or lawyer.
It's always like, that's it? So that's all you've done? Like if I went to the moon, he would honestly be like, when are you going to Mars?
Yeah. Oh, Brian, you went to the moon? That's like graduating from community college. When are you going to graduate from Harvard? AKA go to Buddha.
You love your grandma.
So just an example of just something funny around that and something we picked up on. And Aziz is a big fan of ours, and we sort of trade stuff to get these type of views. But I think in both those examples, there's a really important thing to know what's going to be trending based on immediacy and personalization, and actually create something really fast. Our POPSUGAR studios in LA can create a video. I would, if there was a game show of various different video producers, I'd put us up there in terms of speed and quality of what we sort of create. And then just the intricacies around using, most people have sound off when they're watching their Facebook phone or whatever, and making sure that there's words immediately. And it's interesting when we look at the graph of our Facebook videos, second 2 to 3 is actually watched the most out of everything, more than second 1 to 2 or 0 to 2, because people actually rewind it because we caught them and they go back to 2 and they start watching that. So we started learning things like that. And finally, probably the most important and probably the hardest, really the hardest, is authenticity. You can get the right media articles written about you. You can fabricate a ComScore score. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't be authentic by just saying you are authentic. You need to create the content. You need to have the experts. You need to have the technology and the data to create content at a level of authenticity that nobody else can compete with you on. And when we first started getting into video in 2009, it was extremely important to Lisa and the rest of the edit team that we didn't go out and hire just pretty faces, talking heads. That we went out and hired people that were writers, producers, and experts in that space. So people like Brandy Malloy or Kirby or so on and so forth that have worked at our company for 5, 6 years, has grown up as a writer and a producer of this kind of stuff. And now Brandy and Kirby are they're regular guests on the Today Show talking about experts and things like that around the categories that they cover. And finally, if you are authentic and real and you do all of this, you're going to be able to sustain the massive change in what's going to be happening in our publishing world. It's going to go from display ads and programmatic and ad tech and all the stuff I don't care about to creating really great content and getting advertisers to tell their story with you. If you can authentically tell a great story, they're going to want to tell the story with you, and that's what native is all about, and that's why we're doing so well. So for example, this video that I have here, say goodbye to cottage cheese thighs with this 5-minute leg workout. This is a program that we did with Target. Imagine going to Target people and saying, you need to do videos around cottage cheese and all this kind of stuff. And they believed us, and we did it. And they sponsored our entire Class Fit Sugar series, as well as a must-have box. And the Fit Sugar series has done over 200 million views. We're currently producing right now How to Lose That Pooch with Target, as an example. So 3 key takeaways, very easy. You're going to go drink beer later tonight. You're going to be like, wow, that guy Brian from POPSUGAR was pretty energetic. But he really talked about IPA, and it's really about, in all things that you're doing as a publisher, be immediate, be personalized, and be authentic, and you're going to do fine. Don't play tricks, don't play games, even though maybe your competitor is. Thank you for your time.
Okay, cool. I like the part about tricks and games. What are the tricks and games that are going on right now in publishing that should stop?
I don't know. There's been articles. I want more articles. It's like,
You can do that.
yeah, please do. I mean, there are people that stand up on the stage that are like, oh, we're this number of ComScore. When you actually click on the thing, there's like weird sites underneath it, and they represent it. And I've called some of these people just to know. I'm not going to sort of name names. I'm like, why are you doing this? They're like, oh, well, I just started out, and they pay me $100,000 a month for my ComScore number, and they don't even run advertising on it. And I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting game. So we need to do an expose.
Okay, great. Well, I think Vice's number just went down. So how dependent are you on Facebook? And does that worry you?
No, Facebook's about 20% of our traffic.
Only 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
We kind of have we have 20 times 5 rule, so it's Facebook, Google, rest of social, direct, and referrals, those 5.
Yeah. Why are you uninterested in ad tech?
I don't. I don't know. I am a coder.
This is dangerous. Like half the audience here is.
We don't use it. I mean, waterfall this and like at some point it's just not going to be there, right? It's going to be all native. I hope. I mean, there's not going to be display advertising on POPSUGAR in the future. I mean, I've said that before, and I don't see the need to. As long as we maintain a level of authenticity and we can create content with the brands that want to create it, because that to me is the future of advertising.
Okay. Want to open up for maybe one question? Anyone? Or counterpoint? Okay. Right here.
So you mentioned the use of data. How do you use data behind the scenes to really drive personalization?
So two things. On the content side, when you come to the site and when she comes to the site, you're going to see different related articles based on where you came from and any information that you have. On ShopStyle, which is a e-commerce platform of hundreds of brands and retailers, upselling, cross-selling. When you search for red dress, we're going to show you different red dresses than what red dresses we're going to show her. And it's built on a massive AWS sort of infrastructure that most people couldn't have done 5 to 10 years ago.
Okay, cool. Oh, wait, we'll do one more. Why not?
Can you talk a little bit about how you have that conversation with Target about the stories and the content you're doing with them? Is it with the client directly, agency involved, anything like that?
It's both. I always was like, just go to the client all the time. But I think you can't necessarily do that. And we have an exceptional relationship with many of the agencies that Target uses. And, the folks that are buying the media as well as the merchants that are at Target, they know our brands, they read it, they love it, they want to be part of that. So when we come into the offices, we talk about what's going on in the future. And they desperately wanted to do a fitness must-have box. That was like a driving force of what they had. But when we as a publisher walk in against other female lifestyle publishers, the fact that we can drive real sales through ShopStyle and put their product in the must-have boxes changes the conversation against everybody else, where everybody else is like, well, we can get some influencers to write about you, we can do some programmatic this, maybe we'll do a skin or a direct email. It's like, we're really we're full funnel, discovery when you want to buy, and then ultimately getting the sample thing. So I think we're the full sell to a lot of these merchants.
Okay, Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move on. I want to call up